Dear student, Assalamu alaikum. I hope all of you are fine by the grace of Almighty Allah. I am Mohammad Shahjahan, Assistant Professor, Department of Accounting, Milestone College, Uttara, Dhaka.
Dear student, this is our second lecture and chapter 1. Dear student, after this lecture, you can able to know about transaction. That means you can explain what is transaction. You can identify the nature of transaction. You can explain the accounting equation. You can discuss the impact of transaction over accounting equation, and you can prepare essential document related to transaction. Let's come to our class. Dear student, transaction. Literally, the meaning of transaction is to receive and payment. That means give and take. That means if we give anything, instead of that, if you receive anything, then it is a transaction. Dear student, the meaning of transaction is received and payment. That means if you receive something, instead of that, if you pay anything, that is transaction. A transaction is a business event that has a monetary impact on entity of financial statement. That means every transaction will change the financial condition of an organization. Dear student, there are two types of transaction: internal transaction and external transaction. Internal transaction means the transaction which occurred along with the organization, in between the organization, like depreciation of any asset. That means for this transaction there is no parties related to outsiders. It is an internal transaction of the organization. On the other hand, if you purchase goods, if you sell goods, this is an external types of transaction. Dear student, now features of transaction, that means characteristics of transaction, by which thing we can say that it is a transaction. Look at number one, it is measurable in terms of money. That means if any event is measurable in terms of money, then it is transaction. By any event, if there is financial condition changes, then it is transaction. Dear student, changes in financial condition, that means second characteristics of transaction is that changing the financial condition. Every transaction will change the financial condition of an organization. Dual entity. Dear student, one of the basic characteristics of transaction is dual entity. That means in every transaction there should be two parties. One party will receive the benefit and the other party will give the benefit, then it will be a transaction. Dear student, next features is complete and independent. That means each and every transaction is complete and independent. It is not dependent one transaction is with other transaction. Dear student, visibility. Dear student, transaction may be visible, may be invisible. Some transaction we can see, some transaction we cannot see, but both are transaction. Dear student, historical event. Dear student, if any historical event, any previous event change the financial condition, that also be a transaction. And lastly, impact over accounting equation. Dear student, each and every transaction will change accounting equation. Dear student, I will discuss later on in this lecture what is accounting equation. Okay, let's come to next topics. Dear student, this is accounting equation. Just earlier I have told you that I will discuss accounting equation. Dear student, in mathematics you have seen lots of equation. In the accounting we have also accounting equation. In a particular time, the total asset of an organization should be equal to the sum of owner's equity and external liabilities. The equation that represents this fundamental concept is known as accounting equation. That means the concept which shows that whatever asset of an organization have, it will be equals to whatever liabilities and equity have. That is accounting equation. Let's see the equation, dear student. This is accounting equation. At first, asset will be equals to liabilities will be equals to equities. That means whatever total asset, if our asset is 5,000, then liability plus equity, it will be 5,000. That's why it is called accounting equation. Every transaction will change this equation, but the value will be total asset will be liability plus equity. That's why it is called accounting equation. Dear student, the extended accounting equation, it is very important for in MCQ. The extended format, that means the extended format of accounting equation is A equals to, that means A for asset, L plus liability also same, but in equity there is a explanation. What is the explanation of equity? Look at C plus R minus E minus D. Here C for capital, R for revenue, E for expenses, and D for drawings. That means this is the extended format. It will come in the exam. A equals to L plus C plus R minus E minus D. This is the extended format of accounting equation. Dear student, impact of transaction over accounting equation. Dear students, now we will see the impact of transaction over accounting equation. We will take some example of transaction and what is the impact of that transaction in accounting equation. I'll show you. Dear student, look at, there are 5 transactions here. Number 1, started business with taka 5,000. You know that this changes the financial condition of an organization. So this is a transaction by starting business. What is the financial condition change? By starting business, our cash money will increases. On the other hand, who has given this money? Owner of the business. So equity also increases. So equity also increases. Look at this sheet. Accounting equation, effect of accounting equation. Look at date, asset, liability, equity. Look at, in asset, cash money, it is increases 50,000. On the other hand, equity 50,000. That means equity also increases. So what is our second transaction? Look at purchase goods on credit. Purchase goods on credit. That means we purchase goods on credit. By this transaction, what happened? Purchase is an expense account, and you know that if there is expense, equity decreases. On the other hand, we purchase it on credit. That means our liability increases. Look at the solution. Accounts payable, liability increases and equity decreases. Liability increases, equity decreases. That means every transaction impact on accounting equation. Then next transaction, look at next transaction. Salary paid in cash. If you paid salary, your cash money decreases. On the other hand, salary is an expenses. Salary is an expenses account. So what will be the expenses? Look at, for expenses, cash money decreases and our equity, it is also decreases because it is an expenses. If it is expenses, equity decrease. Salary paid, cash decreases. Then our fourth transaction is furniture purchase in cash. That means we purchase furniture. Then what will happen? Our, by purchasing furniture, our asset decreases, cash money decreases. On the other hand, furniture, it is an asset. So one asset decreases and other asset increases. Look at, by purchasing furniture, our cash money decreases, our furniture is increases. That means there is a change in accounting equation. Then next one, look at last transaction. Sold goods in credit. That means if we sold goods, what will happen? Our income increases. And on credit, that means account receivable, asset also increases. So sold goods on credit, asset increase and equity increase. Look at, sold goods on credit, account receivable increases and equity increases. The total of equity 48,000, total of liability 15,000, total of assets 63,000. Look at, total of liability plus equity 68,000. That means asset equals to liability plus equity. This is accounting equation. Dear student, now some essential document related to transaction. Dear student, just I will discuss. You have to prepare in your books. There is a format of these things, and inshallah next class we will show the format of invoice, voucher, cash memo. Invoice, you used it for purchase and sales. For MCQ, this is very important. Invoice we used for purchase and sales. Buyer names, address, quantity, goods value, it is mentioned here. Voucher, there are two types of voucher: debit voucher and credit voucher. Debit voucher used for expenses, credit voucher used for income. And cash memo used for cash transaction. And generally 3 copies of cash memos are prepared. All are important MCQ, dear student. That's why I have given here. Dear student, next topics. Debit note. which we use for sales return. Quantity, rate, value, and causes of return goods are mentioned in debit note. Usually, buyer prepare debit note. Credit note used for purchase return. Quantity, rate, value of goods are mentioned. Credit note usually the seller prepare credit note. Dear student, this is your homework. Of course, you will prepare an invoice, debit voucher, credit voucher. You will prepare cash memo. You will prepare debit note, credit note. All format is given in the books. So all of you will prepare this one. You will submit it. Okay. Thank you very much. May Allah help all of us. Dear student, stay home, stay safe. Allah Hafiz.